Stop everything you are doing for just 10 seconds. Step away from the automated hustle of your modern workspace and pay close, ruthless attention to the exact psychological panic and deep generational friction that paralyzes a corporate boardroom. The very millisecond a young employee sends a brief, one-sentence resignation email, drops their access card on the desk, and walks out the door after only 90 days on the payroll. Notice the immediate, volatile wave of anger and defensive labels deployed by senior executives to dismiss this systemic phenomenon contemptuously, calling them fragile, entitled, snowflakes, unstable, or completely lacking the long-term emotional resilience required for real-world growth. Watch how the modern office floor operates as an invisible, highly radioactive battlefield today, where the legacy systems of absolute corporate compliance are violently colliding with a generation that flatly, aggressively refuses to exchange its neurological health for a salary dividend. You look at this massive cultural fracture, the sudden rise of quiet quitting, the immediate exit from micromanaged structures, and the absolute refusal to accept corporate gaslighting, and you tell yourself a lazy, comforting lie manufactured by mainstream corporate media. Gen Z is just naturally lazy. They are a hypersensitive, pampered generation who cannot handle the grit of real work. But if we perform a deep, forensic economic psychological autopsy on this systemic turnover, we uncover a profound, highly logical rebellion against a broken, rigged game. Gen Z's fast resignation is not a defect in their work ethic. It is a highly calculated, survivalist response to a hyper-exploitative organizational laboratory. They did not consciously choose to become corporate nomads or disengaged ghosts. Long before they signed their first employment contract, they spent their developmental years watching their parents trade their physical health, their authentic identities, and their basic human dignity to a faceless corporate machinery that ultimately rewarded that blind loyalty with sudden layoffs, hyperinflation, and structural emotional abandonment. Every time a young worker walking out of a toxic job today, without a single drop of hesitation, their nervous system is simply running an essential software update, designed to survive an economy where human loyalty has been entirely commodified, and asset inflation has made the old rules of endurance completely obsolete. To decode the true, terrifying blueprint of why Gen Z quits jobs faster than any previous generation in history, we must aggressively, ruthlessly smash the comforting corporate myth that the employment market still operates on mutual loyalty and predictable socioeconomic mobility. In the historical reality of organizational psychology and labor economics, previous generations, the boomers and Gen X, accepted intense toxic stress, ese structural humiliation, and low entry-level wages because the corporate machine offered a functioning, legally backed social contract. That foundational contract promised a clear, reliable, and mathematical calculation. If you suppress your raw human desires today, stay completely quiet, perform absolute compliance, and accept our micromanagement for 20 to 30 years, the system will guaranteed reward you with homeownership, protection against asset inflation, and absolute retirement security. The emotional self-eviction had a high, predictable return on investment. But for Gen Z, entering the global market in a hyper-digital era of permanent economic volatility, climate collapse, and currency devaluation, this foundational social contract has not just broken, it has been entirely incinerated. They look at the current macroeconomic metrics and see an existential absurdity. Entry-level salaries have remained structurally stagnant, while the costs of basic housing, medical care, and fundamental human living have exploded by hundreds of %. To a pragmatic, highly analytical digital brain, the corporate math simply does not add up. They realize with absolute unyielding conviction that the traditional corporate promise of work hard and wait your turn is a mathematical dead end. When an 8-hour office job can no longer provide the financial capital required to buy a home or secure a stable baseline of life, the workplace instantly loses its psychological leverage and its power to induce fear. The natural survival fear of losing a job is entirely replaced by the far more terrifying fear of wasting finite life energy to fund an executive's bonus. Gen Z does not run away from hard work or deep focus. They run away from a rigged casino where the house wins every time, and the player leaves with nothing but chronic neurological burnout and an unpayable rent bill. This early, systemic exposure to economic disillusionment physically, structurally, and chemically alters the entire architecture of Gen Z's dopamine and reward pathways, carving two primary unyielding laws of psychological behavioral programming directly into their adult workspace. The first law is the complete erasure of the neurobiological tolerance for inefficiency and bureaucracy. Gen Z are true digital natives. Their neural networks were formed and pruned inside a high-speed, algorithmically optimized digital infrastructure, where information retrieval, feedback loops, and process optimization occur within milliseconds. Their brains are highly sensitive to systemic friction and energetic waste. When they step into a traditional corporate environment ruled by slow, defensive bureaucracy, redundant meetings designed to soothe the manager's ego, ancient technological tools, and a hierarchy driven by vanity metrics rather than clean data, their system experiences a severe, painful, cognitive mismatch. The dopamine pathway registers this structural stagnation not as a professional requirement, but as an active waste of biological time. As an adult worker, their brain literally loses the capacity to tolerate inefficient suffering. They look at a manager who demands they sit at a desk for 8 hours just for visible presence and see an organic crime. Their default neurological setting is optimization, and if the institution refuses to adapt its infrastructure, their brain deploys a massive wave of immediate chemical disengagement, forcing them to quit to protect their own neural efficiency. The second law is the radical hypervisibility of alternative arbitrage options. Previous generations suffered inside toxic workplaces because their tight geographical boundaries and limited access to information restricted their choices. They believed with absolute certainty that this specific local boss was their only gateway to economic survival. But Gen Z lives inside a hyper-connected global marketplace. Through the permanent lens of the internet, global remote work infrastructure, and independent creator platforms. Their brains possess a permanent, structural awareness that alternative financial streams exist outside the traditional cubicle. This neural conditioning completely removes the primitive fear of starvation that corporate managers historically weaponized to enforce compliance and suppress employee boundaries. Gen Z knows with mathematical clarity that they can monetize a niche skill online, build an independent digital asset, or find a remote employer across the world. Their threshold for workplace disrespect drops to absolute zero because their psychological safety net is no longer anchored to a single corporate tower. But if we perform a deeper, more clinical post-mortem on this ongoing corporate warfare, we confront the most profound psychological shift of this generation, the absolute refusal to internalize corporate toxic waste. It is an unyielding law of neurobiology that repressed authenticity will always destroy the body through chronic illness and somatic armoring. Previous generations coped by swallowing their rage and developing severe psychosomatic diseases, wearing their burnout as a badge of professional honor. Gen Z looks at this historical generational sacrifice and reads it not as heroism, but as complete, undiluted psychological madness. They refuse to allow the chronic anxiety and the insecure projections of a toxic manager to become an asset that eats away their nervous system. When an employer says we are a family here to enforce unpaid overtime, or uses shame to suppress personal boundaries, Gen Z's internal defense system immediately flashes red alert. Their software does not internalize the shame. It projects it right back onto the institution. They see the toxic corporate dynamic for what it truly is. A manipulative strategy designed to exploit human vulnerability for corporate profit. They use their exit as a tool of sovereignty. They quit because they are hyper-aware that their life energy is a non-renewable asset. They refuse to finish their parents' unresolved math problems by trading their mental health to keep a corporation's balance sheet warm. The corporate world cannot force this generation to return to the ancient laws of absolute compliance, blind loyalty, and quiet suffering. The digital shift has occurred. The social contract is dead, and the neurochemical expectations of the global workforce have evolved permanently. Corporate systems can either continuously whine about a lack of resilience in their LinkedIn posts, or they can aggressively re-engineer their infrastructure to match the reality of human sovereignty. If you are a young worker navigating this chaotic, volatile market economy today, you break the matrix of corporate exploitation by enforcing two radical protocols of professional sovereignty. First, you must master the protocol of the sovereign value proposition. Never anchor your true identity, your self-worth, or your existential security to a corporate title, an office desk, or a manager's approval index. Treat every employment contract not as a blood oath of loyalty, but as a temporary, bilateral business agreement. You exchange your highly optimized skills and your finite hours for fair financial capital and real growth assets. The exact millisecond the transaction becomes asymmetrical the moment they demand your compliance at the expense of your sanity, you have the absolute right to terminate. Second, commit to intrinsic asset building. Diversify your skills, optimize your independent digital footprint, and build a psychological fortress that does not rely on a single institutional tower. Understand that your boundaries are holy, your time is finite, and your authentic self is completely non-negotiable. Open your eyes to the silent sculptors of your workplace anxiety. See the matrix of corporate exploitation for what it truly is, and remember that you don't have to sacrifice your nervous system to deserve your own place in this economy. Thank you for exploring this file of the hidden side of Gen Z with human secrets. If this deep dive helped, make sure to subscribe. Leave your deepest thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever quit a job fast to protect your sanity? Stay independent, stay compassionate to your unique nervous system, and we will see you in the next chapter.